So we're now into our third part, which is going to add a display of the hits for both the player and the enemy. And that way, when we shoot an enemy or we get hit, we know how much life we have. We also know how much life is left on the enemy, so that we can determine maybe we want to shoot at the enemies that are more damaged, so we can try to destroy them first before we move on to other enemies. So we're going to do that by drawing health bars. So we have already set up the hits. We just need to use the hits value with the health bar when we create them. For the enemy, we're going to kind of attach the health bar to the enemy. So as the enemy is flying on screen, the enemy is going to appear, going to have a health bar next to it that'll show how much health is left. For the player will display their health bar in the lower right. And then we'll also add player lives, so we'll display those in the lower left. And that way the player knows how much life they have, as well as how many lives they have left. So let's go ahead and do this. We are going to first go to the enemy, not the sprite though, the object. And we're going to go into the enemies, or we're going to add the enemy's draw event, because that's where we're going to draw the health bar. And I always remember that if we add a draw event, we always need to first add a draw self, because as soon as that draw event appears, GameMaker stops drawing on its own, and you have to tell it to draw its own, or tell each individual object to draw itself. And now we can draw the health bar. So the health bar has a lot of stuff involved with it. We have a direction, which will be which direction the health bar itself moves. So in this case, we're going to do a left. So it'll actually move to the left as the health goes down. Our value is going to be dependent upon the amount of hits that the enemy has left. So we're going to go hits, and then we're going to use the asterisk for multiplication, and times 33. That's because the hits, or the number of hits is 3, and so if you multiply that by 33, you'll get 99, which is close to 100. And so, and we actually can't go over 100. So if we do hits times 33, that is as close to 100 as we can get. Visually, it's not going to look that much different because it's going to be so small. It won't be that big a deal. For the location, because we're going to attach this to the character or to the object, we're going to click all the relative boxes, because I know I'm going to locate this relative to the player's or to the object's position in space. So the way that's going to work is then we're going to go 12 pixels to the left. Our top is going to be 22 pixels up, so this health bar will appear above the enemy. We'll go 12 pixels to the right. That's nice and symmetric, and then we'll make it, the bottom will be 20 pixels above, which puts it just about, well, it makes the bar itself about 2 pixels wide. And then we have to work out the appearance of the bar. So first is the background. The background's the kind of the basic bar or basic color you'll see when health has gone away from the bar, and you'll see part of it, that's the background. So we're going to use a nice dark gray. I picked one that is the third from the right in the second row of the basic colors. So we'll click OK on that one. Outline I'm going to leave as white, because we're working with a black background, so it'll stand out against the black background if I have a white outline. The minimum color I'm going to use is red, so that's the lowest color. It'll turn that color when the value is down low. the maximum color is going to be green. So, and the value is basically like a percentage. So that's why I changed it to hits times 33, because if I just put hits in here, it would think of it as 3%, not 3 hits. So hits times 33, and so each hit that it takes, it's going to lower the health bar by a little bit. So if we look at that real quick, we can see that the enemy is going to have a health bar attached to them, and when the enemy starts moving, you can see it there, and then if I shoot the enemy, see it took 2 hits right away because I had 2 hits. So now it'll take a 3rd hit and it's gone. So there's the health bar for the enemy. Now we'll add the health bar for the player. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to attach this to the player. It'll make it easier for the health bar to update. So we're going to add a draw event. And again, don't forget, draw self is the first thing I should do. And now I'm going to draw my health bar. This time around, though, we're going to use a fixed position rather than a position relative to the player. So I'm not going to click any of the relative boxes. I'm going to leave this as left. Our player's health is currently at 5, or our player's hits is currently at 5. So we're going to do hits times 20. This we're going to locate in the lower right corner. So we're going to start with the left part is at 568 from there. The top is going to be at, let's see, 460. The right will be at 632, and then the bottom will be at 468. And I'm going to explain all of these in just a moment here. So our health bar is going to be at the lower right corner. Okay, I wanted to give a buffer around it, so our screen is 640 by 480. So that means if the rightmost part of the health bar is at 632, that gives 8 pixels of space on the right. And then I go 64 pixels over, and then that was just a number I picked out. It looks, I think, nice. And then the top and bottom, I just chose because they were around the middle, kind of around the middle of the space we have open. It's not really the middle, but it's close, and it'll look nice. We're going to use the same colors for the bar as we did for the enemy. Okay, but we'll see a little more gradual change because we have more hits, and therefore when each time a hit goes down, or each time a hit is taken, we lose less of our health bar. So let's check out that health bar. It's going to be in our lower right when we get to the game. There it goes. There it is in the lower right. And then I'll let myself get hit with one, and you can see it kind of lowers. It's going to lower one at a time. There we go. I got one there by the... Okay. And you can see it automatically transitions the color from the max to the min as it loses hits. So, okay. So we have that now. The last thing to do is to go ahead and we're going to make the player lives. That's going to involve a new object. We're going to go ahead and have a control object for this game. So we're going to create an object called out obj control. Again, oops, I didn't spell it right though. Let's rename it. Obj control. There we go. And because this is going to be behind the scenes, we're not going to add a sprite for it. We're just going to start adding events. And the first thing we need, if we're going to have player lives, is we need the player lives variable. It's going to be a global variable. So I'm going to add a set global variable, and we're going to call this, we'll just call it player lives, just like we did before. and we're going to start the value at 3. Okay, that will allow us to show the player lives in the lower right or lower left corner, I should say. Now that we have that variable, now we need to display the lives, which is going to be in a draw event for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and add the draw event. However, if I were to just use the draw sprite transformed, which we've used before, we used it in the Brick Breaker game, this sprite is an animated sprite. Now I do get to pick a frame, but my preference would be to have a sprite that doesn't have the flame on it, which in order to do that I need a new sprite. So the easiest way to do this is I'm going to right click on the SPR player and I'm going to duplicate this. And that way, and we'll call it SPR player lives, and as I was saying, that way I have a separate sprite that won't have this, and I'm just going to eliminate all the other frames so that I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to click edit image and we're going to delete all these frames. Okay, if you get a message that asks you about deleting, you can always click, which I have. I've clicked the don't show this message again on that one, and that will get rid of that message. Now I'm going to click the erase tool and I'm just going to erase the flame at the back end of the ship. I just want the ship itself without the flame. Okay, so I've got that. I can close this, and now I'm just gonna. What's nice about duplicating is that everything else stays the same. The origin stays the same, all that. So now I'm going to go ahead and go back to the control object, and we're going to draw this sprite. So I'm going to choose this sprite, transformed, just like we did before. We are going to put these in the lower right. Now, like last time, we want to draw as many sprites as we have lives. And so we have to kind of do that same process, which is, one, declare a temporary variable called, I call it tempx. Give tempx a value to start with. We're going to start at 16. We're going to draw a sprite, and then we're going to scoot over however much we need. Okay? These sprites, the sprite currently is at 32 by 32. We're going to scale it down by half. So I don't forget, scale it by half. So if I scale it by half, that means that it's going to be 16 by 16. And we're going to go ahead and put these lives one right next to the other. So we're not going to leave any space this time around. And that's partially because if you look at the sprite itself, there already is some space around it, so we don't need to add any space. So now, back to the control object, we're going to repeat for the number of lives we have. So I'm going to go get a repeat block. It's going to be gray. Here it is, this one here, the repeat block. We're going to repeat the number of times for global.lives, or player lives. And the reason why I have to use global here is because this doesn't access the global object. If I use a global, a set global block, then I don't have to. So, draw sprite transformed. Inside the repeat block, we moved the draw sprite transformed to it. We got player live selected. We're going to use tempx, right, just like we did last time, and then we're going to draw these at 464, which, if you were paying attention to the numbers we used for the health bar, this would be right in the middle of the health bar as well. So, I think we've got everything there. The only thing we need to do is we need to move the tempx, or change the tempx variable, so that we can. So we need to change that using an assign variable. So let's go back up here to the top. Here we are, assign variable. and we're going to assign the value of tempx 16 and relative. And again, we're doing 16 because there's already space around the sprite itself, the main part of the sprite, and so we don't need to add any other space. We can move over 16, which is just the same width as the sprite. So now when I click run, I should see in the lower left, oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to add the control object to the room. So if I add the control object anywhere, doesn't matter, I'm going to put it down the lower right, run it again, and there we go. We've got our lives down here. So we have everything working. Lives are working. Hits are working. Health bars are working. We can shoot stuff. We're all set.